Here with Alex, vocalist for Undeath. Man, thanks a lot, dude. It's I know you guys are ramping up to go overseas for a while, so you're taking a few minutes to let me talk with you. I appreciate it.
Oh, of course. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Let's just jump right in. You got an album coming out, I think, October 4th. Is
Correct.
that correct? Talk about the excitement. I'm excited. Fans are excited. How are you guys seeing that right now?
Well, we're extremely excited. Yeah, we've got our new album, our third album coming out on October 4th. It's called More Insane. We busted our asses writing it and recording it, and it's finally coming out. Some of these songs, like Brandish the Blade, we've been playing for like 2 years now. So the fact that it's finally seeing the light of day as part of a whole album is something that all of us are really, really stoked about. So yeah, can't wait for everybody to hear it.
What's it like when you've played a song that long, but then I guess at live shows, then you release it and it's gotten a good reception? What does that do confidence wise? How does it feel as a band to get a good reception from a song like that?
It means a lot. These songs take a long time to kind of gestate and become what they are, and they go through a lot of tearing down and building back up in the space just to make sure that everything is as good as it can be, and that we feel as confident about it as we can be. So, when you put it out and people seem stoked about it, it really it means a lot, and it ramps up the excitement internally for us to continue to move forward.
Now you're headed overseas. You think you're doing what, Asia and Australia?
Yeah, we're doing Southeast Asia, China, and Australia.
Is this the first time over there?
Second time to Australia. We were there with Gatecreeper last year, but first time to Asia. Yeah, none of us have ever been there before.
Yeah. What's that like playing for a completely different crowd? It's different from playing US shows, right?
Yeah, it is and it isn't. Like we haven't played in Asia yet, so I can't tell you specifically what that's like. But for Australia or for England or the UK or Europe, it's like there's cultural differences, I guess. That's probably like the best way to describe it. Just like the way that people behave at shows is a little bit different, but like all in all, metal is kind of a universal language, right? And no matter what culture or creed or whatever you want to say you belong to, your enjoyment of metal is going to kind of translate the same way. So people are equally stoked about death metal pretty much everywhere that we go, and that's cool to see.
Yeah. Metal's, I think what you're saying is exactly right. My son is 16. He has a Sepultura hat on at a Mexican restaurant where we live the other day. A guy comes out of his way, he sees the hat to mention the hat. I always
Yeah.
find it interesting how this group is like that Spider-Man meme where you just kind of point. I think metal does
Yeah.
that, doesn't it? Is that why you guys love this so much? It's just it really is seems like a legit community.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's like it's almost like a tribal thing in a way. It's like we're all a part of this very strange tribe that, when you try to explain it to somebody else on paper, it sounds so ridiculous. It's like we all love this inscrutable music where half the time the songs are about like killing people, and the other half of the time it's about demons and wizards and stuff like that. And but for whatever reason, it puts us all at ease, and it makes life worth living, and it gets us stoked about getting out there and being involved in the world. And it's something that it's hard to describe, but when you're involved in it and when you're a part of it, it seems as natural as breathing.
Yeah, I tell people I'm from Mississippi, so I grew up very country music oriented area. I think you
Sure.
either get this stuff or you don't. Like when you first get access to it, I think if you don't, I tell people if you don't get it, it's fine. For those of us who do get it, it really is a lifestyle for most of us.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's the kind of thing too where I feel like if it doesn't hit you when you're younger, it kind of never hits you in that specific way. And that's not to say that you can't be older and enter like your 40s and 50s or whatever, and begin to develop an appreciation for metal, like for sure. But it's never going to be the same as when you hear something like Iron Maiden or Judas Priest or whatever when you're 10, 11 years old, and your life is just different from then on. And I think about my fiance. Like she is not a metal person at all. She just doesn't really understand the appeal of something like death metal or black metal or grindcore or any of that stuff. But since we've been together, we've been together like 10 years. She's kind of developed an appreciation for it and more of like an understanding. And now we can go to shows together and she gets it, she understands. But that understanding is still like, it's different. It just means something different when you latch onto it really early on and it just kind of becomes your whole life. So it's this big community of people, and it's very, very exciting to be a part of, and I love being involved in metal at any capacity.
Well, you're very involved. I think 3 days after Australia, you're starting your U.S. headline tour, the first full U.S. headline tour. No
Yep.
breaks, no breaks, man. Is that what this has become? Just a full-time touring band?
Yeah, I mean, as full time as we can make it. I mean, we all have day jobs when we're home, and we all do stuff to kind of like make some extra money when we're in between tours. But yeah, we're touring like 4 or 5 months out of the year at least these days, and um, yeah, no breaks in between any of these. We're doing Asia straight into Australia, straight into the US, and I think there's like one day in between Australia and America, and then it goes straight into like 4 weeks in America. So we'll see if we survive all of it. I'm still like a little dubious that we're gonna make it through the whole thing before collapsing, but we're gonna do our best.
And that tour's lineup, how much say as far as the lineup goes? Do you pick everyone? No, you've got Gates to Hell playing. I saw them with Frozen Soul probably 2 weeks ago. They're incredible. How much say do you guys have in the lineup, and how excited are you for this particular group of bands?
We've got like 100% say in the lineup, and thankfully we've got a manager and people behind us that trust what we're trying to do and listen to us and don't just tell us like you have to tour with this band whether you like to or not. It's like when we're constructing lineups like this, it really is 100% bands that we want to tour with and that we're excited about. And just going down the list, like Cruelty from Japan, they're a band that we've wanted to tour with since pretty much the very beginning.
Hmm.
They kind of started right around the same time as us. Zuma, who plays guitar and sings in the band, he and I go way back. Like we were kind of like pen pals almost in a way, and we would send each other stuff. And he bought like the first Undeath demo when it came out, and I bought like some really early Cruelty releases, and we would just send each other stuff. And so that's been a long time coming. Finally, being able to tour with them. Gates to Hell, like you said, they've been friends of ours for a while. We know those guys from playing in the Louisville area, so they've kind of become like compatriots of ours. And Tribal Gaze, same thing. Every time we would roll through Texas, those guys would be at shows, and we just kind of developed a friendship with them. And they started their own band, and they're great. So we were looking for the right opportunity to play some shows with them, and everything just kind of lined up perfectly.
I saw, speaking of the metal scene as a whole, you mentioned lots of different bands. John Five, from Motley Crue and lots
Yeah,
of them, he came out a couple weeks back and kind of hinted that metal wasn't, it was dying. From my opinion, we go to 25, 30 shows a year. I think it's more alive than ever. How do you see
yeah.
the scene right now?
I think it's great, and I feel like a lot of older guys kind of have that opinion just because things maybe don't resemble the way that they used to be,
Yeah.
and that's fine. I feel like that's just part of getting older. Is stuff just changes and you don't necessarily understand it. I'm not going to fault anybody for that, but I agree with you that I feel like metal is in a better place than it has been in a very long time,
Mhm.
and I think that uh COVID, for all like as horrible as it was for so many people, it really did kind of reinvigorate people's excitement about like going to shows and live music. Um, I remember when Undeath started in 2018, we didn't play that many shows before the COVID lockdowns hit, but we would play to like 20, 30 people at a bar, and we were stoked about that. But then when live music got taken away from people, it just kind of made people appreciate what they lost, I think. And then when we started playing shows after lockdowns lifted, that attendance just skyrocketed. And, we still play shows to modest amounts of people all the time, but you see more and more crowds of people that are just like ravenous for metal because they know what life is like without having access to it.
I think it gave us some appreciation for what we kind of took for granted. I won't lie to you, man. The first show we went, like I said, we do 25, 30 shows a year in our area. We're Atlanta, Nashville, Little Rock, Birmingham, Memphis area. And for 18 months, no shows. The first show we
Yeah.
went to, I won't lie to you, I teared up just a little bit. It was so good to be back with
Yeah.
the crowd, and we're so starved. It was so much fun. I'm trying not to take that for granted.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I remember the first tour that we did back after lockdowns was that tour we did opening for Black Dahlia Murder.
Mhm.
And that was also like the first real tour that Undeath had ever done. You know, that was the first full US like 30 something day tour that we'd ever embarked on. And
Mhm.
it was a really powerful experience just because the shows were so good, but also like that excitement was so palpable. You could just tell everybody was just so grateful to be there, like bands and fans alike. And
Mhm.
yeah, that was just a really cool experience. And I feel like that feeling hasn't really completely gone away. People
Mhm.
are just very grateful to be able to go to shows and play shows.
You mentioned Black Dahlia. I know Trevor meant a lot to you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
What was his impact on your band?
It was it was big, you know, can't really overstate it. Like he was a very early champion of what we were doing, and you know, he put on for us really early on when nobody else really was. Not that we were like uh maligned or anything like that, but Trevor was kind of like one of the first big public faces to come out and tell people to listen to us. And you know, we from like our second demo, he was always talking about us. And you know, we played a show in Brooklyn. It was like our third or fourth show ever, and Trevor came out to it, and that just meant so much to us because he was like a celebrity, you know, to us. And here's this guy who is in this hugely successful metal band, and he could be doing anything, and he chose to go out of his way to come support us at a tiny little show in a bar in Brooklyn playing for like 80 people.
Hmm.
And like that's just that kind of attitude was really inspiring to us. And then obviously he vouched for us enough that we got an opening slot for them, and he took us out on tour, and that was like our first tour, first real exposure to a lot of people. So his capacity for that kind of like generosity meant the world to us, and it still does.
What does social media mean, marketing wise these days for a band? How do you approach it? How do you see its importance as far as marketing your product?
You know, that's a good question. I think I try to think about it like as much as necessary, you know, and there are a lot of bands who place a ton of artificial importance on what they post online. And there are bands that kind of make that their whole personality. It's just being like an extremely online band, and they're just posting every single day. And I think we've fallen into that trap before, but these days I just try to use it as a tool like everything else. You know, it's like you if you've got something to promote, whether it's a tour or an album or something, it's like I want to post about it. I want to post enough engaging stuff that people are going to get excited about what we've got going on. And then I just want to back off and let the music speak for itself. And I feel like that's been a refreshing routine that we've fallen into.
Speaking of social media, the opinions on this next question vary across all bands and all platform genres. How do you feel about phones at shows? Does it bother you?
Um it depends, you know, there's like context to everything, right? And like I don't see any issue with somebody whipping out their phone and taking a video of the set and putting it away and like tagging us. Obviously, that like helps us too when
Sure.
people post stories of us on Instagram. Like we're able to repost that and show like what our shows are like. So that's like that helps everybody, and I can't fault anybody for doing that. So I encourage it in that sense. Where it gets annoying is when you know you're playing a show and there's somebody right in the front row, like directly in front of you, just on their phone the whole time.
Mm.
Or they're like directly up front and they just got their phone out and they're just filming you like the whole set,
Mm.
and they're taking up room for somebody who could be there and wants to be there and wants to just kind of like take in the show and not have their phone out the whole
Yeah.
time. So it's stuff like that that gets frustrating. But yeah, like just like with so many other things, I think moderation is key. And as long as you can kind of like read the room, there's really no issue.
Yeah. I ask everybody I talk to this question because I love the comment section when bands answer. You're on the road a lot. You're in vans touring across the country, especially the US run. What are you listening to? Because a lot of metal bands say not metal a lot of the time. We venture out. Do you guys, are you full metal music the whole time? Do you venture different stuff? I've heard everything from synth pop to 80s country. So what do you guys listen to?
We're all over the place, man. I mean, we're definitely not one of those bands that doesn't listen to metal in the van. You know, like we love metal. That's like the thing that unites all five of us. It's just a passion and a love for metal music of all kinds. So generally speaking, I would say at least half the time the music playing in the van is metal. But that can range from everything to like old thrash like Metallica and Testament to new bands that are like our contemporaries to power metal and shit like Manowar. You know, it's all over the place. But for me personally, when I've got my headphones in and I'm not listening to whatever is happening in the van, I listen to all kinds of stuff. Lately, it's been a lot of Sade, like which is
Okay.
kind of like the opposite of what you might expect from a metal guy, but it's just like throw you got like a 6 7 hour drive coming up, like just throw on the best of Sade record and just kind of vibe out and fall asleep to that. That's kind of been my
Yeah.
go-to these days.
It's a palate cleanser.
Absolutely, that's the perfect way to describe it.
So I heard you guys, I think, first on, there's several ways to hear it now. Spotify, everybody does that, but Liquid Metal. I
Oh,
think
cool.
you guys and Sean maybe, Buds, I
Yeah.
think he's a New York guy. What role have they taken? Because I've heard a lot of new bands from, especially Sean. Every time I hear a hardcore or death metal band on Liquid Metal, that's Sean. So how
Yeah.
important is their job?
It's super important. I mean, the promotion that he's been able to do for us and that Liquid Metal has done has been awesome. I mean, when we did the last record, they had our song "Rise from the Grave" in rotation for a long time,
Yeah.
and I've heard from a ton of people that they first heard about us from Liquid Metal, and I know they're playing our song "Brandish the Blade" a lot right now.
Yep.
So it's very important for sure.
Any bands right now that you're listening to that it may not be, but anybody you're hearing right now that maybe people aren't aware of, you want to kind of pump out there and tell people about?
Yeah, definitely. The big one for me right now is this band Adversarial.
Okay.
They're kind of a little tough to describe, but I would say generally speaking, it's like blackened death metal. They're from Canada, and they put out a record earlier this year. Ah, shoot, what is the name of that fucking thing? Let me. I don't want to get this wrong. It's
I'll
like
look it up
some
too.
Solitude with the Eternal. I think it is. Let me just confirm that.
Okay.
Yeah, Solitude with the Eternal came out this year.
Okay.
Killer band, just like really vicious, ferocious stuff. And I would highly encourage anybody out there who's into like the more extreme side of extreme metal to check that out.
Okay. Last question. So, like I said, we go to a lot of shows. Somehow I've missed you guys completely. We haven't seen you yet. I think we'll be in Atlanta for this US tour.
Great.
If you're asked why should people come see Undeath, what do you tell them?
It's a good time, man. We just put on a good show. You know, we're not one of those metal bands that just stands there and looks at the floor the whole time. Like we engage with people. We try to like stir the audience up and make people like get off their feet and move and uh it's just a good show and we really do our best to put on a good performance for people and make people leave with a smile on their face, which is not kind of like the vibe you might typically expect from a death metal band. But
Mhm.
we're all about just like having a good time and making sure that the audience is having a good time too. And we want people to leave stoked about music and excited to like go to the next show.
Yeah. Man, that's all I've got for you, dude. I really, really appreciate it. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. Alex, thanks a lot, man. Take it easy. Hey, good luck on the
Cool.
road, man.
Appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thank
bro.
you, man. Appreciate you.